Okay, so let's look at part 2 of the Linux terminal. And then for now, we are going to be looking at how to create a directory, how to copy, and then how to remove. And of course, how do you create files, and then how do we make subdirectories and co-directories at the same time. So let's try and see whether we can make sense from this. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well, so that when I put up a video, you are always the first to see. Okay, so let me share my screen and go straight to the terminal. And let's see, it's great. So let me choose an approach. Should they? Maybe this, maybe better. Okay. No. Yeah. Today I'll take this part. So let me pull up the terminal and see. I'm trying to pull up the terminal, but it's like it appears. And so, okay, I think it's open. It's opening now. Obviously, when you open to terminal for the first time, this is what you see. It has to update you on the model that you are using. So you can see I am using Ubuntu 20. I think the version is 20.04 LTS, and so that's what I'm using because I'm using a Windows machine. So I have the WPS. So now let's go straight. Today we're going to look at how to make directories. I'll start with that one. So to make a directory means to create a folder, just like we have in Windows. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm saying that. So I want to move a little bit to this directory. Move. So I'm changing. I'm using CD right now. So as you can see, I'm CD to MNT, CD to my drive, and then I'm going to CD to users, and then I'll go to CD to my own. When you start typing, use tab so it will complete it if that particular directory is found within the current working directory. So these are all things that are found within my home directory. So I'm moving all the way to desktop. So I'll use tab to complete it. And then let me move all the way to another one called IVF. And then perhaps let me stop here. So if I'm listing my current working directory. By now, you should know this. If you followed me yesterday, we use ls to view the content of a directory. So now let's see if we can learn how to make directories. So if I say mk like this, I am making a directory. So which means I'm creating a folder. So I can give it another folder that I want. I can give the folder name. Something you must bear in mind that we do not, there are some characters that you don't add when you are making a folder. But so let's say I want to make a folder and I'm going to call that tutorials. So I would say tutorials. Now that's the name of the folder. So you say make directory and then you add the folder name. So, or that's the directory name. Now, when you are making a directory like it means that directory is a subdirectory of your current working directory. Your current working directory now is IVF. So if I make any directory, it's going to be a subdirectory under my current working directory. So if I enter now the directory has been listed. So now if I list it, you will now see that there is a directory called tutorials, which is over here. Now, that's one of the easiest way to be able to make a directory. Can we make more than one directory? Yes. So let's say that I want to make additional 2 directories inside that particular directory. Or, yeah, so I'm going to say, what is it, the make directory here. And then what are the directories I want to make? I want to say 221 and then space 222. So I am making 2 directories at the same time, and which are all found within the IVF directory. So they are all, both of them are subdirectories under the IVF, but they are co-directories. It means that tutor 1 and 2 are not, each of them is not a subdirectory under the other one. They are both directories under the IVF. So now if I list the IVF, you can see that I have tutor 1, tutor 2, and then I also have the other files which were seated there already. That's how we are able to make whole directories. How do we make a subdirectory? You have to first of all create the directory itself, and then you can make a directory after that. For instance, I want to make a subdirectory under the tutorials. So what I will simply do is I'm going to say make there, all right? And then I will simply start with tutorials, the tutorials that I already have. That's one of the ways to be able to make a subdirectory under a directory, because I already know that I have a subdirectory under the IVF called tutorials. So I will have to make a directory under the tutorials. So one of the ways is to either change directory to the tutorials and then make a directory there, or so let me do it two ways. So I'm going to say cd to let's say tutorials. And then when I do that, I think my voice was not clear. So when I do that, it becomes quite easy for me to be able to just a minute. Let me put in my earpiece. That will be better. So you do this and then you enter. So when you enter, we are now in the tutorial working directory. So if I make any directory now, it's a subdirectory under tutorials. So that's one of the ways. So I can say make there, and then I'll give it, I'll call that one, let's say tutorial 1. And so when I do that, if I now say ls, you will see that under that particular directory, there's a subdirectory called tutorial 1. Now, that's one of the ways. Now, let's go back to where we were and then check something again. So I'm going to say cd, and by now you should know this, dot dot, it means we're going back one more step, and we are here. Now, we want to make a subdirectory under the same tutorials again. This time around, we're not going to change directory to the tutorials. We are just going to say make directory, and then we'll say tutorials like this, /, and then I'm going to call that one tuto tt. Okay, let me say ttt. So when I do that, you see, I am saying that make a directory, but why am I making it? I am making the directory as a subdirectory under the directory I've already created called tutorials, which is here. So now if I come and I do ls, you won't find the tt. But if I say ls and I go to mention tutorials, then you will find tt. So you see that the ttt is actually here, which is a subdirectory under the tutorial. So that's one of the ways to create subdirectories. And then let's look at how do we create directories away from your current working directory. Now, let's assume that I am moving to tutorial. So I'm changing directory to tutorials. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm there. There was a subdirectory there, so which is called tt. So I'm going to say cd to tt, and then so this is where I am. But I want to make a directory, a subdirectory under IVF or under tutorial, because my current working directory, when you do pwd, it should give you your current working directory as tt if you follow the tutorial from yesterday. So now what I'm going to do is I want to create a directory not in my current working directory, but all the way in IVF. So how do I do that? If you remember yesterday, we said that if you have ls and then you do dot dot, it means I am listing the parent of the current working directory, which is tutorials, right? Now, so the same way, if I say I'm making a directory, make there, where am I making that directory? If I do dot dot like this, I am making the directory in tutorials. If I do slash dot dot, it means I am making the directory backwards in IVF. And what's the name of that directory? Then I can now put it there. So if I come here like this and I make that particular directory, let's say I'm going to call it what is it? IVFFF. So and then I do like this. So I have created a directory all the way in the IVF. So now if I want to list to know whether it is there, remember I said that Linux makes life simple. You don't want to be moving up and down, change here and there. So I'm just going to say ls and I'll say dot dot slash dot dot like this. So I am listing I have gone back here and I've gone back to this place. So when I list, you will find that there is a directory called IVFFFFF, like I indicated. This is how to be able to create a directory away from your current working directory, which is very simple. You just use the dodo and then you just count and then you slash back to where you were supposed to make that particular directory, and you can list as well. Now, if you want to understand more about how to make directories, I'm going to do this, and then you add a flag to it, and then you do help. Sorry about that. You do help and then enter. So it's going to give you other things you can do. So you can see the flags here. I explained yesterday what they are. You have mode, and then in that order, P parents, B verbose, and then so it gives you additional things that you can do when you are creating directories. So that's just about it. Let me clear my screen a little bit. Now, the next thing is, how do we copy a directory into a different directory? If I list this, there's nothing in this particular directory. So I'm going to go back one more step, or yeah, and then I'm going to come here and list. So you see that I have a directory there called tutorials, and I have another directory there called TTT. I want to move the TTT into the tutorials. I want to copy the TTT into the tutorials. At the moment, when I say ls and I say tutorials, for instance, ls and I say tutorials, oh, just a minute, ls, and then I'll say, oh, okay, I made it tutorials. You cannot, So at the moment, there's nothing in that particular directory. So, but I want to move the directory called TTT into it. So it will become a subdirectory under that. So how do I do that? You have something, you can either move it or you can copy it. So let's start with copy. CP means copy. If you're copying a directory, we add a flag -r. If you're copying a file, you don't add anything. Here, directory is a folder. So because it is a directory, we have to add a flag R. So what are we moving? We are moving TTT to where? Then you add space to where? To which particular directory? And I would say we are moving it to this particular directory. And then that's all. So this time around, we have copied it, sorry, not move, we have copied it into it. So when you copy, there will still be a copy remaining. It's different from when you move. So if I do ls, you see that the TT is there. But if I do ls and I say, what is it? This, you will see find that there's a copy that remain on top there, and then there's a copy which is also found in this particular sub one directory. So it means TT is now a subdirectory of T or of this particular tutorial. So these are the various ways through which we can make directories, we can make subdirectories, we can move the directory, we can copy them. So let's assume that I want to copy the entire tutorial, or let me say ls. So I have tutorials and I have TT. Now let's assume that I want to copy the tutorials, which is found under tutorials, into IVF. I want to copy the tutorials here and then copy the TT here, all of them into IVF. So how do I do that? I'm going to do CP and I'm going to add flag because they are directories. So you copy, you add flag. So what's the next thing to do? Remember, if I'm copying them from this current working directory to the directory behind. Okay, so if I do CP, then -r, it means I am copying a directory. So which directories am I copying? Then I'll put their names there. So I'm copying this particular tutorial, and then I am copying another one called TTT to where? Where am I copying it to? Because I am copying it backwards, I'll still use the same ... So I am copying it backwards into this particular directory called IVF. So I do this, and that is it. So now when I list IVF, you will realize that these tutorials and TTT are all inside there. So if I do ls and then I do ... it means I am listing backward the parent of my current working directory. So that should give me, as you can see the tutorials is there. You can see TTT are also there. This is how we copy backwards, and then we can copy directories and whatsoever. If you want to understand more about copy, just do copy dash and then help, and then you enter. There are several flags that will come, and you can see them here. If you want to copy with whatsoever, like I is here, that's iterative. If you want to copy a link, you have to add L. If you want to copy like D reference and then all of them, then you just read the flags and the description is here, and then you are able to know where, this is what I'm talking about. These are the flags. These alphabets here are the flags, and then their description is here. So it means when you add any of them, Control L will clear your screen for you. If you don't want that, you can also just spell clear and then enter it to clear the screen for you as usual. Now, those are the two ways. Now, we have just seen how to be able to copy folders and then whatsoever. If you want to copy a file, you simply say copy. You don't add anything. You don't add anything. It's when you are copying a folder that you add -R. That means you are copying the folder. Now, let's look at how to remove, maybe how to remove a directory or how to delete. In Linux, when you remove something, you have deleted it, and it's deleted completely. It's not like in Windows where when you delete, you can go to your bin, and then you are able to retrieve whatever that you have deleted. For here, when you remove anything, you have removed it completely. It doesn't, it will not appear again. So now let's look at how to use, and then we use this particular function called remove to be able to remove it. So let's look at how to be able to remove the directories that we have just created momentarily. So let me list my current working directory and let's see. I have TT and I have tutorials also over there. So I've already copied them to IVF. So now let me remove one of them. I'm going to remove TTT and then enter. You say, what do we see? Cannot remove. It is a directory. I like that. When errors come, it allows you to know how to read your error message. If you want to remove a directory, you see add the same flag called -R. So if I say R if I add that .R to it, and then I now add my TTT, then it will remove it. Next time when I list, you won't find TTT any longer. Now let's try and see whether we can remove tutorials under tutorials again. I want to show you something. So here we add our flag -R, and let's try and see if we can remove tutorials, and then so that one too is also gone. And so now when we list, there's nothing in it. And so this is how we are able to. But we also have some files which are seated in IVF. So let's list IVF and see what will happen. Say IVF, so we do ... we are listing backward one step. So you can see we have so many files over there. Let's say we want to remove the Tito1, Tito2 from the IVF. So what do? We don't have to change directory back to IVF before removing them. We just use the ... sign. So I'm going to say remove, but because they are directories, I'm going to say remove -R. And where I'll use ... it means I'm going back one more step into a directory called IVF. And when I go there, there are some subdirectories I want to remove, which are Tito1 and Tito2. So what do? You add a / and then now specify those directories, right? We now specify, because both of them are subdirectories. Check the removal, it's a bit different. So I'm going to say Tito1, all right? Now, let me do this and see whether some of you will get the import. I know it might not work. And then Tito2. So, yeah, it tells me that cannot remove Tito2. You see, we can't remove Tito2 because what we have done, the code is going to read only Tito1 and remove that one, but Tito2, it will not be able to remove it. You know what we should have done? We should have also specified another one again this way. Let me see. I'm coming. Let me list first and then check to see that. You see that Tito1 is removed, but TTT and then Tito2 are over there. Now let's see, how can we remove the two directories at the same time using this particular approach? So I'm going to say remove -R, and then I'll say go into that file and then remove Tito2. And then what again? And then remove TTT. So this time around, it removes the two of them. What did I do here? Check the code again properly. I said remove a folder where go backward one step from the current working directory. That will take us to IVF. When we get there, remove a subdirectory called Pt2. That's the end of that command. If you want to remove another subdirectory in the same place, you have to repeat this same process, like from here to this place. You have to repeat the same thing here and specify that other subdirectory, and then that will remove it. Because Pt2 and TTT are not subdirectories under each other. They are co-directories. They are co-directories under IVF, and this is how we remove them. All right. So that's why they are removed. So now when you do ls and then you do this, then you won't find the two of them over there. This is how you are able to remove directories away from your, that is far away from your current working directory. But now I'm just using these few examples for you to see. Now, we've looked at copy, we've looked at remove. Another way to check for more remove is to say, what is it, dash, and then always add help. Then it will give you other flags for you to, there are instances you want to remove a folder or a file and then it is not removing. So you can add something, a flag called force. You force it to be removed. Just like in Windows, if you want to close a program and it's not closing, you use task manager and forcefully close it down. In Linux, we add a flag called -F, which means forcefully remove it. And then it will go. That's when you are using the remove function. So I'm going to clear my screen, write the word clear, and then it is cleared now. What is the next thing we're supposed to do is to check how to be able to move files. So let's say that I'm going to my IVF. So I'm going to say ls. So I'm listing my IVF. I have listed my IVF, but I want to move the folder called IVFFF from IVF to tutorials. Let me list tutorials and you see. There's nothing in tutorials now, but I want to move this particular folder and make it a subfolder under my current working directory or my current working folder called tutorials. All right, so how do I do that? We use a function called move. When you move a file or a folder, that's all. You won't see a copy of it. It's different from copy. Copy, another copy will remain. Move, it goes out completely. So we are going to move this, but it is not found in the current working directory. Where is it found? It is found in IVF. So when we say move and we are moving a directory, so we have to add a flag called -R, where then we add this, you see, which means we are moving a directory which is found in the parent of the current working directory. So we do that, so we go back one more step and we add /. All right. So when we add the /, then we now specify, when we have gotten there, we have to now specify IVF. The FF are about 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then we are moving that particular file to where? To our current working directory. So how do we indicate our current working directory? We just put one stop, full stop, like this. So let's see. Oh, move invalid option dash. Okay. Try move. Okay. What is it? I've seen what I have done here. So let me try it once more and then we see. So I am moving a particular directory. So let me see. So I have move. So I am moving what? Or let me create subdirectories and then do this for easier understanding. So let me say here, and then let me say I'm just creating a directory called FGG, and then another one called GFF files. So I've created 2 subdirectories under this current one. I want to move one of them to the backward one. So what I'll simply say, I will say move, then GFF into what? My, I'm moving that one to IVF. So I will say move it to this, and then that's all. when you do that, it moves it backward one step. It moves it backward one step into this directory called IVF. But what about if I want to move from IVF back to my current working directory? That's where the issue is. So there's a file or there's a folder in my IVF. I want to move it into my current working directory. Let's see whether if that will work. So I'll begin with move. Okay. So I have dot backward. When I come there, I am moving out. I should have listed so that I'll be able to see. So I am going to move a directory there called IVFFFF. So IVFFF and then F, like this. To where? To where I am, to my current working directory. So I'll just put full stop and do. See that one, it moves just properly. Now, let me explain the code. I said move. What am I moving? I am moving a folder. Found where? I say // which means I am going back one more step into this directory called IVF. And then when you get to the IVF, there is a subdirectory there called IVFFF. So that's why I specify it / IVFFF, which means it's a subdirectory of this .. which represents the IVF. To where? When you put full stop, it means to my current working directory. That's full stop. That's why I put the full stop there, and then it simply moves it. So now if I list my current working directory, you can see that I have moved the IVF all the way to my current working directory. And that's how it works. It's just so simple. So we've looked at how to copy, how to move, and then how to make a directory, make a code directory, make directory out of where you are. Now let's look at something a little bit. We've also looked at how to remove directories. Now, what about how do we create files? I mean, can we create files? I think I should do a different video for that. How to be able to create files and then move the files around between directories and whatsoever. But to let you have a preamble of what that means, if you want to create a file, you use the function called touch. So if I say touch, and then I can say I have file 1, I can have file 2, I can have, let's say, file 3. I've created how many files? 3 files under this directory called tutorials. So if I do that, yeah, they are there. So now if I say ls, you can see that I have created how many files which are here. You see their color is different from the folders. 3 files which are there. All right. So now how do we put the content into a file? We can use echo, or we can use other, or we can use cat. For instance, if I use echo, I can put echo, let's say, I would say, okay, let me just say, I love Linux tutorials. So that's what I have done here. If I don't add anything to this and I do it, it will print the same thing. I love Linux tutorials. That's echo. But let's assume that I want to put this one into a file that I just created called file 1. How do I do that? You do this, and then you pipe the results into another command called cat. So you use the pipe operator. So I'll do like this, and then I'll now say cat what? And then I'll cut and then use this greater than sign, which means we are cutting this particular resource into a particular file we have already created. Into which file? I will now say file 1, or let's say file 1. Now, when I do that, it is now found inside file 1. The next time I want to now see I love Linux tutorials, then you simply say cat, and then you put what? Your file 1. Then it will print it the same way as I love Linux tutorials. This is how we can put in a text into a file, and then what we are good to go. What about if we wanted to add another text into the file that we have already created? How are we going to do that? It's very simple. Now we could use the same echo with different line, but okay, now let me do it again. So I have echo like this, then space, then I open like this, and I say I love Linux tutorial, but it's sometimes complicated. It's sometimes complex. All right, then I close it like this, and now I can do. I can now pipe this result into cuts. This time around, I'll put 2 greater than sign into my file 1. It means I am going to add it into the file 1. So this time around, when I cut and then I put file 1 there, it's going to print the 2 lines. I love Linux tutorials, but it's sometimes complex. So you see, you can see them here. So this is how we can create a file, when put our information into the file, and then add another information to it. And that's how it is. Is that very simple? Maybe one thing I want you to pay attention is the dodo that you have seen, it works in all fields. I can actually create a file. The file will be seated in a different directory. And then I can simply use the dodo sign to be able to write a text like this, echo a text like this, and put the text inside that particular file. The next video I'm going to do, I will show much more of how to be able to create files, and then how to be able to create them in different directories, and then we are good to go. I will also add some few information about grepes, and then how to do that. So I don't want the videos to be too long, and that is why I'm making them short. So today we've looked at how to create a directory, how to create subdirectories, how to create co-directories, how to create a directory away from your current working directory. We've looked at how to copy, how to move files, and then how to also create files, and then how to put a text into a file, and then how to add another text into a file. That's the summary. Under the copy, there was something I did not. I only showed you how to copy a folder. I didn't show how to copy a file. It's the same format. If I'm copying a file, I would have said CP. But because I am copying a file, I don't have to add a flag -r. I'll just leave it that way. Let's say I am copying what? File 1 into where? Into the IVF directory. So I'm copying it is from where? It's from my current working directory. So I don't have to specify. I'll just say copy file 1 into where? Into this. So it goes all the way to the IVF. So now if I go and list my IVF, you'll see that file 1 is seated over there. Now let's assume that I wanted to view file 1 all the way in the in the IVF directory. So I would have done just cut, and I'll say like this, and then go there and say file 1. So I am going to print file 1, which is found not in my current working directory, but in the parent of the current working directory. When I do that, it goes there to print file 1. I love Linux tutorials, but it's sometimes complex. These are, I mean, if you understand how to manipulate this dodo like this back and forth, it's very easy to be able to use the Linux terminal. What is the last thing I did not do? You can copy multiple files at the same time. You can copy file 1, file 2. You just have to say CP, and then you just specify file 1. Then you have your file 2. But make sure that the files you are copying, you've already created them, and then you are copying them from a particular directory onto the directory in which you are. It's just a matter of doing this data and then tricks a little bit, and then you are good to go. The last thing I want you to pay attention to is how to copy into a server and outside a server. This part, I don't know whether I should make it a new tutorial, but let me quickly do this. So this particular terminal you are looking at, I'm using it to explore my own computer, my own local computer. A server is another computer seated in somewhere. I am going to connect to a server. I'm in Kumasi now, but I'm going to connect to a server outside of Kumasi. Okay, so it means I'm going to connect to a computer which is far away. Now, how do I copy things into that computer and copy things from that computer to my my own local computer? This is very important. If you want to be in bioinformatics, you should know this at your fingertips, because the data is too huge and you want to run it, you can't run it on your own computer, you have to run it on a server. When you finish, how do you get it back to your own? That is why we use something called secure copy. So you have secure copy, then you have dash. That is if you are copying a folder, then you put -r. and then you put where are you copying from. If I'm copying from my computer, I have to put the address of my computer, and then after that, I leave a space and put the address of where I am copying it to. So it's like from to. So the from here will give you the address of where you are copying the thing from to the address of where it is going. So if I have time, I don't know how much time I have done so far, or I should do that in a separate video. Yeah. So in a separate video, I'll show you how to be able to copy from a server and then to outside a server. But this simple explanation, you can easily run with it, and then that will be it. So this is your part 2 of Linux tutorials, and I hope you've learned something. Somebody asked me yesterday to show how to be able to install WPS on Windows machine. I will do that for you to see, but not exactly now. Thanks. And if you enjoy my tutorials, then subscribe to my channel and continue to follow. This tutorial is going to continue like this until I would have up to part 10 before we'll now start looking at specific areas in bioinformatics. We'll look at how to build phylogenetic trees, how to be able to print out antibiotic-resistant genes, virulent genes. We'll look at how to be able to extract SNPs and then make sense from it. So everything will be done using this the Linux terminal. And that's the reason why I'm starting with this. And after that, we'll look at how to be able to offload the results we have here onto a different platform and make sense from it. Thank you. My name is Big Bright. If you like my tutorials, maybe give me a subscription. And by doing that, you are helping me. Thank you. See you some other time.